My name is Evelyn Hart, 35 years old. It was a Tuesday morning, the kind that feels harmless, routine, even mercifully quiet. The kettle hissed softly in the background while I sat at my kitchen table, hands wrapped around a chipped mug of coffee. My apartment was still, sun pouring through the blinds in thin, even stripes. On the wall hung framed photos of my family, birthdays, graduations, holidays, where I was always the one behind the cake, smiling, holding someone else's gift. That was me, the reliable one, the fixer, the one who kept the Hart family from collapsing. For years, I'd paid bills no one thanked me for, smoothed over fights no one remembered, and smiled through family dinners that left me drained. I'd convinced myself it was love, that being indispensable meant being valued. But that morning, my phone buzzed, and a single message turned that illusion into ash. Don't bother coming. The wedding is only for family. It was from my brother, Justin. The words looked wrong, cold, and impersonal, like something a stranger might send. For a second, I thought it was a mistake, maybe a bad joke. But then the details rushed in, vivid and cruel. I had paid for that wedding, $23,000 for a luxury ballroom in Dallas, covering the venue deposit, catering, even their custom invitations embossed with gold foil and arrogance. I'd spent months negotiating prices, calling vendors, filling the silence left by Justin's irresponsibility. And now I wasn't family. I read the text again. Only for family. Each word sliced through me with surgical precision. My coffee sat untouched, cooling beside a laptop screen filled with payment confirmations, evidence of every time I'd stepped in to save him. The irony hit hard. I had built his dream day, brick by brick, dollar by dollar, only to be erased from it. A faint sound broke the quiet, the apartment door unlocking. Caleb stepped in, brushing off his jacket, his usual calm presence filling the room. He was 36, steady, observant, the kind of man who noticed the smallest things. One look at my face, and he stopped. What happened? I turned the phone toward him, letting him read the message. His jaw tightened, though his tone stayed measured. He's serious? He must be. My voice felt foreign, like it belonged to someone detached from her own shock. Caleb sat down across from me, studying the screen. You wired them $23,000, Evelyn, and he uninvited you? I nodded, unable to speak. He exhaled through his nose, slow and deliberate. You're not their ATM, Evie. You know that, right? I tried to smile, but it faltered. If I stop helping, who am I? I've been fixing things since I was 16. He leaned forward, elbows on the table. Then maybe it's time to stop. The words hung between us like smoke, uncomfortable, true. I turned back to my laptop, scrolling through emails that now read like a financial obituary of my own generosity. $1,200 for Justin's overdue rent last winter. $4,000 for Marissa's car repair. $3,000 for their engagement party at a rooftop lounge. Each payment felt heavier in retrospect. Not money, but moments of quiet surrender. A notification popped up, an email from the Dallas Grand Ballroom reminding me of the final $10,000 balance due tomorrow. The irony was suffocating. I was funding a celebration I wasn't welcome at. Caleb's hand brushed mine, grounding me. You can cancel it, he said softly. I could, I whispered. But what happens after that? He hesitated. Maybe, finally, you get your life back. The idea was both terrifying and liberating. For years, my worth had been tied to how much I gave. But now, staring at that pending payment, something shifted. A small, sharp pulse of defiance beneath the ache. I glanced around my apartment, the worn couch, the half-finished painting on the wall, the quiet corners I'd built for everyone but myself. My reflection stared back from the dark laptop screen, eyes tired but clear. I'd been told all my life that family meant sacrifice, but maybe real family didn't require you to bleed for them. My phone buzzed again. Another message, this time from Dad. Evelyn, please, don't make things difficult. Keep the peace. You know how important this wedding is. Keep the peace. The same phrase he'd used my entire life whenever Justin messed up. When he crashed Mom's car at 17, when he maxed out my credit card at 23, when he lied about paying me back at 30. A strange calm washed over me. Keep the peace, I murmured, almost laughing. That's what got us here. I opened the email from the ballroom manager. Subject, final payment due, tomorrow, 12 p.m., CST. Amount, $10,000. My cursor hovered over the cancel payment option. My pulse quickened, not from fear, but from clarity. For the first time, I realized peace wasn't about silence. It was about boundaries. I took a breath, steady and deliberate. Not yet, I wasn't ready to click, but I would. And when I did, it wouldn't just cancel a payment. It would cancel the version of me that kept everyone else afloat while I drowned. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, counting the faint shadows cast by the streetlight through my blinds. Each one reminded me of something I'd paid for, something I'd cleaned up, something I'd swallowed quietly so no one else had to feel uncomfortable. At 2:47 a.m., I got up. The apartment was silent, except for the hum of the refrigerator. I opened my laptop again and scrolled through my online banking history. Line after line. Rent transfers, Venmo requests, wire confirmations. It wasn't just money. It was a map of my entire relationship with my family. Every dollar was a moment where I'd chosen their comfort over my own. And as I looked closer, I saw a pattern. Justin's name appeared almost monthly for the last 7 years. He'd borrowed for emergencies, one-time favor, short-term help. But nothing had ever been paid back. Not once. I opened a spreadsheet, the kind I used for work, and began typing. Hart Family Financial Contributions, 2016 to 2025. At first, it was just an act of control, something to calm my spiraling thoughts. But as the list grew, I started to see it differently. This wasn't just money, it was my time, my love, my silence, all quantified. By dawn, I'd tallied everything. Total, $68,042. I stared at the number until it blurred. Nearly $70,000, almost 2 years of my salary. And they'd uninvited me. Caleb found me at the table when he woke up, the glow of the laptop reflecting off my face. He didn't say anything at first, just placed a cup of tea beside me. "You didn't sleep," he said quietly. I shook my head. "No, I was adding things up." He leaned over, scanning the list. His expression darkened. "Jesus, Evelyn." I laughed, a soft, disbelieving sound. "It's almost funny, isn't it? I thought I was helping them stand. Turns out I was just making sure they never learned how." He pulled out a chair and sat beside me. "So what now?" I turned the laptop toward him, showing the ballroom invoice. "I think I'm done paying for other people's lessons." There was a knock on the door, sharp, too early for anything casual. When I opened it, Dad was standing there. His expression was the same mix of disappointment and authority I'd seen all my life. "Morning, sweetheart," he said, stepping inside before I could answer. "We need to talk." Caleb stood up, instinctively protective. Dad barely glanced at him. "I got your message," I said, arms folded. He sighed. "Look, I know you're hurt. Justin didn't mean to upset you. He's just stressed. Big wedding, lots of pressure." I almost laughed. "He uninvited me from a wedding I paid for, Dad." "Evelyn!" "No, don't Evelyn me like I'm overreacting. I transferred $23,000 for that event, and now somehow I'm not family enough to attend?" Dad rubbed his forehead. "You know how your brother can be, but he's still your brother. He's trying to start his life." I stared at him. "And what have I been doing all this time, building his?" He hesitated, guilt flickering for a moment before he pushed it away. "Don't make this about you." My voice rose. "It is about me. I'm the one who's been holding this family together while everyone else took turns falling apart. And you let them." The room fell silent except for the faint buzz of my phone. Dad exhaled. "You've always been so sensitive." There it was, the word he used to end every argument, to make me doubt my own pain. Sensitive, emotional, overreacting. Something inside me snapped, quietly, cleanly. "I'm not paying the rest," I said. My tone was calm, deliberate. "I'm canceling the final payment." Dad blinked. "You can't. The wedding's tomorrow." "I can," I said, "and I will." His voice hardened. "You'll embarrass this family." I looked him in the eye. "No, I'll stop funding its dysfunction." For a moment, he said nothing. Then he shook his head, a mixture of disappointment and disbelief. "You've changed, Evelyn." I smiled faintly. "That's the point." He left without another word. The door clicked shut, and for the first time in years, the silence that followed didn't feel heavy. It felt earned. Caleb placed his hand over mine. "You did the right thing." I nodded slowly. "Then why does it still hurt?" "Because endings always do," he said, "even when they're overdue." The next morning, I sent the email. "To whom it may concern, please cancel the remaining payment for the Hart wedding scheduled for October 30th. The client listed, Justin Hart, is aware that I will not be covering further costs. Thank you for your understanding. Evelyn Hart. When I hit send, I expected to feel relief, but what came instead was something quieter, a steady, unshakable peace. Not the kind my father meant when he said, keep the peace. The kind that comes when you finally stop pretending things don't hurt. The morning of the wedding came wrapped in silence. No calls, no messages, no frantic apologies. Just the soft hum of my refrigerator and the faint drizzle against the kitchen window. I poured myself coffee, black this time. No cream, no sugar. Clean, honest. Exactly what I needed. By 9 a.m., I'd already muted the family group chat. It was filling with desperate messages, not to me, but to each other. I only saw the previews pop up before they disappeared into the muted void. Mom, why isn't the venue answering? Marissa, the ballroom says payment was canceled. Justin, Evelyn's playing games again. I'll handle it. Again. That word burned, as if years of quiet sacrifice were just games. Caleb walked in, pulling his jacket over his shoulders. You ready? I looked up. For what? For whatever happens next, he said simply. I almost smiled. That's the problem, isn't it? I've spent so long cleaning up their messes, I don't even know what next looks like when I stop. He squeezed my shoulder. Then maybe it's time to find out. At 10:12 a.m., my phone finally rang. Justin. I let it ring twice before answering. Evelyn, what the hell did you do? His voice was sharp, panicked. I sipped my coffee. Good morning to you, too. This isn't funny. The ballroom says the payment bounced. It didn't bounce, I said evenly. I canceled it. There was a pause, the kind that always comes right before someone realizes they've lost control. You can't do that. The wedding is today. You told me not to come, I reminded him. Said it was for family only. He exhaled hard. Oh, come on, Evie. You know I didn't mean it like that. You overreact sometimes. Do I? My tone was calm. Too calm. Because from where I'm standing, I spent $70,000 funding your life while you erased me from it. 70? You're counting now? Yes, I said. For once I am. There was another pause, then a sneer in his voice. You're unbelievable. You think money gives you control? No, I said quietly. It gives me clarity. And then I hung up. An hour later, the first call came from the Dallas Grand Ballroom. Ms. Hart, we just wanted to confirm the event has been officially canceled since the remaining balance wasn't paid by noon. The venue is released for other clients. Understood, I said. Thank you. The second call came from my mother. Her voice trembled between anger and embarrassment. Evelyn, everyone's here. Guests, photographers, the decorations. What have you done? What I've done, I said carefully, is stop pretending I don't notice how you all use me. She started to cry. You've humiliated us. No, Mom, I whispered. I just refuse to be humiliated quietly this time. She went silent. Then, the soft click of the call ending. By evening, social media did the rest. Pictures started appearing, the flower arrangements half dismantled, the guests confused, the bride, Marissa, standing outside the venue in her gown, phone pressed to her ear, mascara streaked down her face. And then came the comments. Did the wedding really get canceled? Someone said the groom's sister pulled the funding. That's cold, but kind of iconic. For the first time, I didn't feel shame. I felt weightless. Caleb came over with takeout and a quiet grin. You're trending, you know. I laughed. Perfect. That's just what I needed. Internet fame for family implosion. He shrugged. It's not implosion. It's exposure. Big difference. I took a bite of my noodles, the taste warm and grounding. Do you think they'll ever forgive me? He looked at me steadily. Do you want them to? I didn't answer right away. I just watched the rain trace long, tired lines down the window pane. The next day, there was a knock on the door. When I opened it, Justin was standing there. He looked wrecked. Tucks wrinkled, tie hanging loose, eyes bloodshot. Can I come in? I hesitated, then stepped aside. He sat down, hands clasped, silent for a long time. Finally, he said, It's over. Marissa left. Said she can't marry a man who depends on his sister. The words landed heavy. I'm sorry, he added. Not just for that, for everything. Part of me wanted to believe him. Another part remembered every apology that had turned into another favor. So I said the only honest thing I could. I hope you learned something from this. He nodded slowly, eyes glassy. You really canceled everything, huh? I had to, I said softly. Otherwise, none of us would ever change. He looked down. You're stronger than me. No, I said, just tired. He left a few minutes later, and when the door closed behind him, I stood there in the quiet. No guilt, No ache, just space. The kind of space that can only exist after you stop trying to fill it with people who take and never give back. Later that night, Caleb asked, "If you could go back, would you still cancel it?" I didn't hesitate. "Yes, every time." He smiled faintly. "Good, because that wasn't the end, Evelyn. That was the start." And as I looked out the window, the rain finally stopped. The streets washed clean, the air still and clear. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I owed anyone anything. And that, I realized, was what freedom actually felt like. 3 weeks passed. The city had started to turn colder. Those late autumn mornings when the air feels sharper than it should, as if it's trying to wake you up. I'd gone back to work, filled my days with emails and project deadlines, the rhythm of normal life slowly returning. But silence has a way of finding you, even when you think you've escaped it. One night I came home to find a thick, unmarked envelope slid under my door. No name, no return address, just my first name written in my father's handwriting. For a moment, I thought about throwing it away. But curiosity has always been my weakness. Inside were photocopies of old bank statements, not mine, Dad's, and attached, a handwritten note. "You deserve to know the truth, Mom." I sank into the couch, my heart already bracing. The statements dated back nearly 15 years, around the time Mom got sick and Justin had just started college. There were multiple withdrawals, all in the same pattern. Money pulled from a joint account I hadn't even known existed. The sender name? E. Hart. My name, except they weren't my withdrawals. Each note was marked with small transfers labeled tuition, housing, personal, all going to Justin Hart. Tens of thousands of dollars over several years. It didn't make sense. I was barely out of high school then. I hadn't even known our parents were struggling. But on the last page, a single sticky note was attached. "Your father told Justin the money came from you. He didn't want him to feel guilty. I only found out recently. I'm sorry." I froze. All these years, the narrative had been that I was the responsible one, the one who never needed help. They'd told me Justin got more support because I was the independent one. But now I saw the truth. Dad had used my name to funnel money to Justin, and when the family's finances collapsed, I'd carried the reputation of being the one who had everything handled. It wasn't generosity that built my identity. It was a lie. And it explained everything. Why I'd always felt responsible for Justin. Why I kept fixing things. I'd spent my adult life trying to make true the image my father created. The capable sister, the steady one, the person who never needed anything back. I wasn't saving them. I was trying to live up to a myth. I called Mom immediately. She answered on the second ring, her voice small. "Evelyn." "I got the envelope." Silence. Then a slow sigh. "I didn't want you to find out like that. Why didn't you tell me?" My voice trembled, not with anger, with exhaustion. "Because your father said it was for the best. He thought Justin would lose confidence if he knew how much we were covering for him. And when the money ran out, you were already working. You were the only one he trusted to help. So he made me believe it was my duty," I said quietly, "to clean up after everyone, to keep the peace." Mom sniffed softly. "You've always had the strongest heart, Evelyn. He depended on that." The strongest heart. That phrase didn't sound like a compliment anymore. It sounded like a weapon someone had learned to use against me. The next day, I drove to my father's house. He looked surprised when I walked in. Older somehow, more fragile than I remembered. "Evelyn," he said, standing, "you shouldn't have come." "Why?" I asked. "Because now I know?" He froze. I pulled the papers from my bag and set them on the table. "You used my name. You let me believe I was the one holding everything together, when all along you were the one pulling the strings." He ran a hand over his face, tired. "It was complicated. Your brother was struggling. You had scholarships, steady grades. So that made me your excuse?" His voice broke. "I did what I thought was right." "No, Dad," I said softly. "You did what was easy. You built a lie big enough for all of us to live inside it." He looked away, ashamed. "You were the strong one, Evelyn. I needed you to stay that way." I stared at him. This man I'd spent my whole life trying to protect. "I wasn't strong," I whispered. "I was conditioned." That night, I sat on my balcony watching the city lights flicker. Caleb joined me, wrapping a blanket around my shoulders. "Did you get answers?" he asked. "Sort of," I said. "But they don't fix anything." He nodded. "Sometimes they're not meant to." I exhaled slowly. "You know what's strange? For years, I thought I was saving them because I loved them. But now I see. I was just trying to prove that I deserved to be loved back." Caleb looked at me quietly. "And now?" Now, I said, gazing at the skyline, I'm done proving anything. That weekend, I made one final transfer to myself. I closed the shared savings account I'd opened years ago for family emergencies, the one that had never actually been for me. And when the confirmation screen appeared, account successfully closed, I smiled. It wasn't revenge, it was reclamation. Because this time, the balance finally read zero. And for once, that didn't mean loss. It meant freedom. The following Thursday, my mother called. Her voice was weak, thinner than I'd ever heard it. Evelyn, can you come by the hospital? I'd like to see you. My chest tightened. She'd been in and out of treatment for months, but she always insisted she was fine. Just tired. Just routine. Now her voice didn't even have the energy to pretend. I'll be there in an hour, I said. When I arrived, she was sitting up in bed, pale but smiling. A half-eaten cup of gelatin sat untouched on the tray beside her. The heart monitor beeped in a slow, steady rhythm. She reached for my hand as I sat beside her. You look tired, she whispered. I tried to smile. So do you. She gave a faint laugh. I suppose we both earned it. We sat quietly for a while, listening to the machines hum around us. Then she said, Your father came yesterday. Did he tell you? I asked. Her eyes softened. He didn't need to. I've known your father long enough to hear what he doesn't say. I looked down at our hands. He thought he was protecting Justin, but what he really did was destroy how I saw myself. Mom nodded slowly. He's always confused control with care. His own father was the same. Her voice cracked a little when she added, He doesn't know how to love without owing or being owed. I swallowed hard. And you? She looked at me, really looked. Her eyes filled with a kind of regret that felt older than either of us. I should have stopped him. I should have told you the truth sooner, but I was scared you'd walk away from us. I almost did, I admitted, and part of me still wants to. Mom nodded. You have every right to. Then she squeezed my hand. But if you do, walk toward something, not away from it. Her words landed deep. Not advice, not permission, just truth. The next afternoon, I went back to my father's house. He was in the garden, pruning roses that had long since wilted. When he saw me, he froze, pruning shears midair. I don't want to fight, I said. He nodded, setting them down. Neither do I. For a long moment, we just stood there, the silence stretching between us like a rope worn thin. Finally, I said, Mom told me you visited her. He nodded. She's stronger than I deserve. Do you know what hurts the most, Dad? I said quietly. Not that you lied. Not that you made me responsible for everyone. It's that you never once asked me what I needed. His jaw tightened. You never said you needed anything. Because every time I did, I said, my voice trembling, you told me someone else needed it more. He looked away, and for the first time, I saw it. Not pride, not anger, but something else. Shame. I thought if I kept you busy fixing everyone, he said slowly, you wouldn't end up broken like me. And look how that turned out, I whispered. He nodded, eyes glistening. I know. There was no cinematic apology, no sweeping confession. Just two people standing in a yard full of dead roses, both realizing how much damage can hide behind good intentions. I took a deep breath. I'm not angry anymore, I said finally, but I can't be who I was. Not for you, not for anyone. He nodded, silent. I hope you figure out how to love without control, I added. He looked up, eyes red-rimmed. And you. I hope you figure out how to love without guilt. For once, we didn't try to fix it. We just stood there, quietly, as the wind moved through the brittle stems. A week later, Mom's condition worsened. Caleb drove me to the hospital at midnight, rain tapping against the windshield. When I reached her room, the nurse nodded gently. She's been asking for you. Mom looked fragile, smaller than I remembered, but her eyes still carried that same calm warmth. I wanted to tell you something, she whispered, about the money. I frowned. Mom, it doesn't matter anymore. It does, she interrupted softly. Because it wasn't all from your father. I froze. What do you mean? She smiled faintly. When you started working part-time in college, you used to send me envelopes of cash for groceries. You remember? I nodded. Of course. I never spent them, she said. I saved every dollar. It wasn't much, maybe $6,000 total. When Justin needed tuition, I gave it to your father and told him to tell Justin it was from you. I thought maybe if he believed in your generosity, he'd learn to be better. Her eyes filled with tears. Instead, he learned to take more. I couldn't speak. She reached for my hand again, her grip weak but steady. You've spent your life giving, Evelyn. But this, she paused, eyes meeting mine. This part of your story is yours to keep. Don't let anyone take it anymore. Tears blurred my vision. I won't. She smiled, tired but peaceful. Good. Then I can rest. 3 days later, she was gone. At the funeral, Justin stood beside me, quiet, humbled. Dad didn't speak. No one did. But as the casket lowered, I realized something I hadn't before. Sometimes closure isn't forgiveness, it's release. Mom had spent her life softening the edges of others. I had inherited that instinct, but maybe now I could use it differently. After the service, I placed a small envelope on her grave. Inside was a note. "I'll live softer, Mom, but never small again." And for the first time, I walked away without looking back. That night, Caleb asked, "What now?" I smiled faintly. Now I learn how to build something that's mine, without owing anyone, without saving anyone. He reached for my hand. "Sounds like a beginning." I nodded. "It is." Outside, the wind rustled through the trees. Not mournful this time, but alive. And as I looked out the window, I finally understood. Freedom doesn't always roar. Sometimes it just exhales. It's been a year since the funeral, a year since the last conversation with my father, a year since I stopped feeling like someone else's keeper. Life didn't transform overnight. It never does. But it started to breathe. I moved into a small apartment above an old bookstore in Cambridge. The walls are uneven, the pipes moan at night, but the light that pours through the windows in the morning feels like forgiveness. Caleb still visits sometimes. We're not what we were, not lovers, not strangers, just two people who've seen each other at our most human. There's peace in that. Justin started working at a community center. He sent me a photo last month, him teaching kids how to draw. His smile looked different, softer. I didn't reply right away, but when I finally did, I wrote only 4 words. "I'm proud of you." It was enough. Dad sold the house, moved somewhere near the coast. We don't talk often, but sometimes he sends me pictures. Waves breaking against the rocks, sunsets over quiet docks. No words, just images. Maybe that's how he says sorry now. And me? I've learned to sit in silence without mistaking it for loneliness. I've learned that healing doesn't sound like thunder. It sounds like the click of a kettle in the morning, the hum of life quietly continuing. Last week, I went back to the old house to sort through Mom's things. The new owners had kept most of her garden. The roses had returned, wild, unpruned, alive. In her closet, I found a box I'd never seen before. Inside were old recipe cards, pressed flowers, and at the very bottom, a stack of unsent letters. Each one was addressed to me. The first was dated May 14th, 2016, the year I moved out. Her handwriting was careful, almost trembling. "My Evelyn, I didn't say goodbye the way I should have. You were so determined to leave that I thought my silence would make it easier. But I see now that silence only teaches distance. If you ever feel lost, remember this. Love is not a debt to be repaid. It's a presence to be shared. You don't owe the world anything for existing. You've already given more than enough by being who you are. Love, Mom." The second was written a few years later, after my first promotion. It read, "You looked so proud that day, standing next to your boss in that photo you sent me. But your smile didn't reach your eyes. I hope one day you find work that feeds your spirit, not just your calendar." I smiled through tears. She'd always known. Then the last letter, no date, just a small, folded note in her soft, fading script. "Evelyn, if you're reading this, it means I couldn't tell you in person. There's one truth I couldn't leave without saying. I didn't just love you because you were strong. I loved you because even when you were breaking, you still tried to hold light for others. But now it's your turn to be held. Let the world care for you. Let it show you gentleness the way you've shown it forgiveness. And if ever you doubt your worth, look at the sky. The same light that warmed you as a child is still here, waiting. Always waiting. All my love, Mom." I don't know how long I sat there, the letters spread across the floor, sunlight slipping through the blinds in thin gold lines. When I finally stood up, I felt something I hadn't in years. Not sorrow, not closure, but continuity. The kind that whispers, nothing really ends. It just changes shape. That night, I walked down to the pier near my new place. The air was cold, the sea restless. I took out Mom's final letter and whispered the last line to the waves. The same light is still here. And for the first time in a long time, I believed her. As the wind carried the words away, I felt it. The quiet pulse of life, the echo of everything she had been, everything I still was, and everything I was still becoming. Sometimes the past doesn't haunt you. Sometimes it holds your hand, just long enough to help you let go.